This 93 Eldorado's back in here. He got a, we found a evaporator core off of eBay that's factory old stock AC Delco, which is really nice. So on these cars, the Northstar engine's the same model car with the Northstars. You got to drop the engine to get this thing out. On this car though, I don't believe you need to do any of that. I'm pretty sure I can get this evaporator out without dropping the engine down. Sometimes you just got to loosen up the cradle mounts, the cradle bolts on the back of the engine. You got to take those out and then loosen up the ones on the front and just drop the engine down enough to sneak that out, because them Northstar engines are flipping huge. Yeah, I'm going to try to get this out without doing all of that. Strut support bar, 13 millimeters. You're supposed to drain the coolant on this. I'm just going to take off the heater hoses and make a big mess. The reason why I don't want to drain all the coolant is because there's factory sealant that you need to put in these engines because it's a wet sleeve block. So if you do decide to drain all the coolant, you gotta put that sealant back in. It's little brown pellets like bar stop leak stuff, like made out of almond husks and cumin and spices, and I don't know, there's a bunch of brown coconut husks or whatever in it. But yeah, I'm just gonna keep going here. Unplug some sensors. There's a connector on here. I'm gonna unplug it with a hook tool. There's a little clippy thing on here. Two 15 millimeters on this brush. We're going to want to disconnect these vacuum lines. I'm going to take this air cleaner off. There's a plug on this map sensor and a vacuum line. Take it off like that and leave that thing on there. 7 millimeters is 2 of these bolts. This connector for this cruise control cable, it's got a little pin in it. You pull it out of the hole, pull it straight out like that. You got to get this out of the way. That's 1.25 inches. This bottom nut's 1 1/8 inches. You can use MacGyver wrenches or whatever. This sensor's a 15/16. Of course, you're going to want to make sure the system is drained. I'm sure if you're replacing this though, it's going to be, because your shit's leaking. This is just like a temperature thing. Now, normally I'd disconnect this. Well, normally I'd actually replace this, but I'm not going to because I already did. I'm just going to bungee cord this thing out of my way. I'm pretty sure the smartest thing with this conglomerate mess of hoses is to disconnect the hose down here. This would be underneath your cruise control after you take it off, because it's a nice low point. There's a 1/4 inch on this hose clamp. I'm just going to let that drip out. I'm going to disconnect the negative battery terminal. There's some wires back here I want to disconnect. We got this cruise control wire, and there's an oxygen sensor wire, I think. That yellow connector. There's a little orange. You push in on that and push it out. And then this you can push in and do the same with, maybe. If you're lucky, it'll come out. Then you can pull this whole wire loom out of the way, I think. Got some junk over here. Yeah, there. This vacuum line that's for the HVAC unit, that's going inside the car. You want to take that off. And then this one down here too. Resistor. Yes, I do have a 7 millimeter swivel socket. Don't leave home without it. 1/4 inch on these hose clamps. You got to be really careful not to wreck the damn heater cord taking these out. These always scare the hell out of me because they don't like to come out. So yeah, just ever so gently try to loosen this hose up. All kinds of room, right? Right. I'm going to get this camera out of here and just jockey this thing out. That was a fun hose to disconnect. How did I get it off? Trial and error. I got to get this blower motor out of here next, I think. I'm going to unplug this wire too. These little brackets, they got to come off too on the valve cover. I got to squirrel this thing out of here. Got a flat right here. I'm pretty sure I got to turn this upside down to get it out. That blower motor's not coming out. It's too tight of a fit. I'm under the car now. Since I'm under here, the heat shield under here I got to take off. 2 8mm bolts. There's going to be some more on the top I got to take off too. I'm going to loosen up these cradle bolts and drop this down just a little bit. They're 15mm. I'm just going to take them out and screw them back up there a little bit, one at a time. This will give me about a 1/2 inch more room to work with. Okay, hopefully this blower motor will come out now. I got 2 top bolts for this heat shield that are 7mm. 22, 24. Now there's all kinds of bolts all over everywhere around here. There's some of these bolts are 7mm and some of them are 10s. There's a couple of bolts under here, underneath the car. They're 7mm. You can't see them, you just got to feel around for them. There's one here and there's one here. Now for the #1 cause of stitches. It says right on here, for barrier removal, cut here. This line right here. I already made the cut underneath when I was underneath. I found an extra bolt down there too to take off. So yeah, you just gotta get a utility knife and you gotta cut this all the way down because this comes apart in 2 pieces. Be careful because utility knife is the #1 cause of stitches. Well, if I got all these bolts out, I think I do. This insulator is supposed to come off in 1 piece. Little hangers for the spark plugs, I'm going to take those off too. Of course, now I got to get this metal cover off, and these are all 7mm too. So there's a plastic clip under here you can't see. You gotta push that thing in. Try to pull this out. Oh, I got it. Alright, now you can try to get this thing out. There's your condenser. Look at this piece of lovely. Isn't that fucking beautiful? Holy crap, people actually breathe this shit. That's got to be good for you. Nice mouse nest. It smells like totally nasty. This cover's got a huge hole in it. Alright, this right here, this little plastic piece of junk. That's what I had to squeeze in to pull this out of the bottom. And like I say, it wasn't cool. It was a tight fit getting out, but I got it out. And a lot of times this stuff just crumbles when it gets really old. I'm surprised this all stayed together. It's actually quite amazing. And this says motor. To remove motor, cut here. I forgot about that. I haven't done one of these in a gazillion years, but you make a cut here and a cut here, and you fold that up. And this piece of plastic comes off. You take this screw off and this piece of plastic comes out of here. So you can replace the blower motor without dropping the cradle like I did. I'm glad I dropped it anyways because it's a tight fit, and it just gives me a little bit of extra room. I broke it, but whatever. I'll put it back in there, and I don't know, maybe I'll duct tape it down. Nobody will know the difference. This I just put some stovepipe tape on it, aluminum tape on both sides. I figure that'll be good enough. This thing's all rusted to hell. It's not really going to stick on the inside, but the tape will stick to the tape, so it should be fine. I'm just going to leave it like that. And I don't want to get too carried away, and finding one of these is pretty much an impossibility, so I'm just going to put it on like this, and it should last the rest of its life. So I'm just going to put that on, and yeah, another thing, I used Lemon 409, and I hosed this down and washed it really good, and I did the same with that. Pine Sol works really good for getting rid of all that mouse stink too, but anything with lemon in it seems to work really well, and 409 works great to get smells out of everything. So, alright, I'm going to just start putting this back together. There's some little foamy things I had to swap over. One more thing I'm going to say, just to say it. These little pins right here, I disconnected those on the wires too, so I could push them down. There's 3 of them. There's one on the corner too. So that just gives you a little bit more room, maybe a 1/2 inch. I'm telling you, you need every little bit. Every little bit counts on this thing. There's supposed to be some, whatever the clip thing, Cadillac clip things you're supposed to put on this. And I just made some out of some radiator parts. I don't know, whatever. Make the cut. Oh, you got to make another cut. Ooh, you got to make cut number 3. You got to put a whole bunch of cuts in this. You can't cut this thing up enough. Cadillac couldn't make a better piece of hell. That job sucked ass. Thankfully, it's been holding vacuum for over 20 minutes, so I'm going to fill this up and should be good. 30 and 200 is great. This thing's blowing ice cubes.